By the mid-1980s, Metallica was making a name for themselves as a major player in the growing thrash metal scene.
Like, subscribe, thank you.
Following the success of their second album, Ride the Lightning, in 1984, the band started attracting fans in both the US and Europe. Despite gaining traction, Metallica remained a primarily underground band, intentionally avoiding mainstream radio and relying heavily on their dedicated fan base, word of mouth, promotion, and constant touring. Work on Master of Puppets started in 1985. Metallica shared a house in El Cerrito, California, which they nicknamed the Metallica Mansion. The band focused intensely on songwriting during this time, with every member contributing to the creative process. James Hetfield and Lars Ulrich, the band's leaders, were dead set on crafting their next album, a behemoth that would surpass their past work in size, aggression, and complexity. Lars and James are the main songwriters, while Kirk Hammett and Cliff Burton contributed all sorts of musical ideas. And despite their contrasting personalities, Lars and James' collaboration yielded impressive results. The band's intense collaboration spurred on creative breakthroughs. Master of Puppets continued Metallica's exploration of heavy themes like addiction, manipulation, war, and the existential dread of life. This music, meticulously crafted, combined intricate arrangements with an aggressive edge. After getting their material in shape, Metallica set up shop in Copenhagen, Denmark to lay down tracks for their new album. They went back to Sweet Silence Studios, the same place they had recorded Ride the Lightning with producer Flemming Rasmussen. Copenhagen's Sweet Silence studio, situated in a modest location, boasted top-notch analog gear, a perfect match for the band's yearning for a raw yet refined sound. Rasmussen, who had built a strong relationship with the band while recording Ride the Lightning, was invited back to produce their next album. He turned out to be highly instrumental in defining the sound of Master of Puppets, just as he did their previous effort. The thing about Flemming is that he was always very hands-on when it came to arranging and structuring the songs, and this really helped the band be able to work more efficiently and realize their vision. So recording with Master of Puppets commenced in September of 1985. Metallica really wanted to take it up a notch from their previous effort, Ride the Lightning. They wanted it to sound heavier. They wanted the guitars to be more powerful and punchy. But mainly they wanted a cleaner overall mix, so that this way that raw aggression that characterized their music really came out. And to nail this sound, they would end up having to spend a lot of time playing around with different equipment and recording methods. The most crucial part of this sound was James Hetfield's rhythm guitar, because it would really shape the album's overall sonic character. And for this, James played a customized Electro Flying V, heavily modded by himself, and his signature white ESP Explorer. They also incorporated the Mesa Boogie Mark IIC Plus amp, famous for its tight, punchy distortion. And of course, the good old Ibanez Tube Screamer played a big part in both James and Kirk's sound throughout the album. Flemming captured the sound by employing a blend of close and room mic techniques. Upon a really close listen to some of the raw rhythm guitar before the band kicks in, and it becomes apparent just how much that cabinet resonance really factored into the sound. They used Shure SM57 mics right in front of the amp speakers, and combined with the ambient mics, this approach yielded a guitar sound that was both brutally heavy but also remarkably clear. Cliff Burton's bass playing was also very crucial to the sound of the album. Burton had the most knowledge of music theory in the entire group, and he infused this into his bass playing. He wasn't just a typical run-of-the-mill bass player. He also contributed melodic lines that played off of the guitar, adding a lot of sophistication uncommon in metal at that time. Cliff played a modified Rickenbacker 4001 bass, swapping out the original pickup for a Gibson EB0 humbucker to boost its low-end punch. Cliff's sound came through a Mesa Boogie D180 amplifier, producing a warm, distorted tone that worked really well with Hetfield's guitar. And to ensure that Burton's intricate bass lines really popped out in the mix, Flemming employed a blend of DI, or direct injection, as well as amp miking techniques when recording him. Lars' drumming on Master of Puppets is considered his most impressive performance to a lot of fans. His playing style, aggressive and hard-hitting, was a perfect match for the band's music. And for Master of Puppets, he upped the ante on his playing, adding more intricate patterns and fills that cranked up the song's intensity. Lars played a Tama drum kit featuring a custom bell brass snare drum that became a defining element of his sound. The snare was tightly tuned, resulting in more of a sharp, piercing sound that cut through the dense mix. And his thunderous drumming was captured using a mix of AKG D112s as well as a Shure SM91 microphone. capturing the full force of his playing. Fleming meticulously crafted the drum sound, employing close mics on each drum as well as room mics to capture the natural acoustics. But between this album and the previous album, they had really tightened up the drum sound. As far as Kirk Hammett's playing goes, he had really shown by this time that he had grown as a musician. His guitar solos on the album were much more melodic and technically impressive than those found on their earlier work. It was obvious that Kirk had a lot more confidence going into the recording of this album. Kirk was highly influenced by Michael Schenker and Ritchie Blackmore, and you could definitely hear those styles coming through in his soloing. Hammett played ESP guitars, which of course have powerful pickups that produce a really scorching lead sound. And he also used the same Mesa Boogie Mark IIC Plus amp, and for his wah, he had used the famous Dunlop Crybaby wah pedal. And again, with Kirk's sound, Fleming wanted to take advantage of room ambience, so he would blend close mics along with the room mics. James Hetfield's singing on Master of Puppets was a major force behind the album's impact, and by this time he had already crafted his distinct vocal style, blending raw aggression with unexpected melody and control. For each song, James recorded multiple takes, striving for a top-notch performance on every track. But recording Master of Puppets was definitely a painstaking process, with Metallica and Fleming meticulously scrutinizing every single aspect of the recording. Recorded on analog tape, the album's warm, organic sound is considered by many fans and critics to be superior of later digital recordings. And it's not just the warm sound, it's also the natural compression that comes from it when you hit the tape hard. If you try to do that with digital, you will end up clipping and then it sounds absolutely like ass. The production relied heavily on double tracking the guitars, so Hetfield's rhythms would be tracked twice, with each recording placed distinctively to the left and to the right of the final mix. And to the listener on headphones, it just completely envelops your head. But also what's interesting is that Fleming employed a mixing technique called subtractive EQ, which involved removing specific frequencies from one instrument to give another more space in the mix. And this technique ensured that every instrument stood out on its own, even when the music was all thick and layered. So Fleming and the band meticulously mixed the album for weeks, making sure the instruments blended perfectly, and the sound was as polished and powerful as they could possibly make it. And then George Marino, over at Sterling Sound in New York City, finished the album's sound by mastering the final mix. The album kicks off with Battery, exploring a mellow acoustic guitar intro that swiftly explodes into a wild thrashing attack. Written in E minor, the song's relentless galloping rhythm became a signature element of Metallica's sound. Lars's double bass drumming and Hetfield's precise, down-picked riffs propel the song's rapid tempo. And of course, palm muting was always the secret sauce to those metal rhythms. Battery follows a standard verse-chorus structure, but it's got that relentless pace that keeps the energy high from start to finish. Kirk's solo in Battery is a wild mix of speed and melody, making the song even more powerful. Battery lyrically explodes the potent force of music, highlighting its influence on both the band and their fans. Battery describes the raw energy and aggression that defines metal, particularly the way it fuels both the band's performance and the audience's engagement. Smashing through the boundaries, Lunacy Has Found Me explores themes of escaping societal restrictions. Metallica's title track, Master of Puppets, is widely considered their most famous song and definitely a defining moment for thrash metal. And this song features complex time signatures and multiple shifts in tempo, starting with a catchy syncopated riff that immediately draws the listener in. And the bridge section highlights the band's knack for blending intensity with musical finesse, featuring layered guitar leads and a chilling clean guitar passage. The breakdown is probably the most memorable moment for a lot of Metallica fans. Over the top is where Kirk laid down a beautiful, harmonized melody. Lyrically, it's a powerful commentary on the dangers of addiction and manipulation, drawing a comparison between a puppet master and the unseen forces that control and enslave individuals. Lyrics like "Taste me, you will see, more is all you need" take it from the drug's perspective, really highlighting just how sinister addiction itself can be. And then when they do that catchy breakdown with the master, we're the dreams that I've been after, promise only lies, coming from the point of view of the addict who had been let down. The Thing That Should Not Be stands out as one of the album's heaviest tracks, slow grinding riff conjuring a feeling of inevitable destruction. The song's D-standard tuning, which for you guitar nuts out there, D, G, C, F, A, D, gives it a darker sound than the rest of the album. It was almost seen as like Black Sabbath on steroids, echoing that signature down-tuned sludgy sound and menacing atmosphere. And the song's structure is fairly simple, emphasizing a consistently dark and heavy mood. The song's pace is slower than most of the album's tracks, highlighting the power and intensity of the riffs. Kirk Hammett just took it to this other place, incorporating the wah and bending techniques to evoke a feeling of unease, which fit perfectly over the song. In terms of inspiration, The Thing That Should Not Be took from H.P. Lovecraft's writing. And for those who saw my last video on Ride the Lightning, you know that the Call of Cthulhu was also inspired by H.P. Lovecraft. The lyrics depict a monstrous creature sleeping under the sea, poised to awaken and trigger the end of the world. And the song's dark, menacing vibe perfectly captures the cosmic horror theme, where humanity is inconsequential against ancient malevolent forces. The lines, "Messenger of fear and sight, dark deception kills the light," capture the intense dread that permeates Lovecraftian horror. In the chorus, "Not dead which eternal lie, stranger eons death may die," borrows directly from Lovecraft's chilling line in The Call of Cthulhu. That's with the spelling Cthulhu, though the instrumental on their previous album, Ride the Lightning, was spelled Ktulu, probably to simplify it a bit and make the name look a bit more catchy. And on this album, Metallica had a ballad, Welcome Home, Sanitarium. It kicks off with a haunting, clean guitar intro, played with a series of simple and tasty harmonics. And the song structure is really dynamic, shifting from introspective verses to a powerful, aggressive chorus. Later on, the band would pick up intensity, with the song just getting heavier and heavier as it goes. And this solo really stands out for the expressive bends as well as the phrasing, which really communicate the feelings of desperation and longing. In terms of lyrical inspiration, Welcome Home Sanitarium draws inspiration from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. The lyrics describe someone locked away in a mental institution, fighting against the forces trying to dominate them. They keep me locked up in this cage. Can't they see it's why my brain says rage? And of course the chorus, Sanitarium, leave me be, Sanitarium, just leave me alone, reflects the protagonist's desire for freedom and a break from the institution's grip. Disposable Heroes stands out on Master of Puppets for its fast, aggressive pace, fueled by a relentless thrash riff that highlights Hetfield's impressive rhythm guitar playing. Hetfield's vocals, sharp as a knife, pierce through the song's thick instrumentation, delivering the message with intense venom. Hammett's guitar solo is a wild mix of blistering notes and dive bombs, making the song feel even more chaotic. The song recounts the tale of a young soldier deployed to the front lines, viewed as expendable by those in command, with the chant, "Back to the front, you will do what I say when I say." It really highlights the absence of individual choice and the harsh, indifferent nature of the military command structure. The chorus, "Soldier boy made of clay, now an empty shell," emphasizes the soldier's shift from a real person to a tool in a grander scheme. The song criticizes the callous treatment of young men in service, highlighting their expendability and disregard for their lives in the heat of battle. The song's relentless speed is anchored by Lars's powerful double bass drumming. And then Metallica takes a bit of a swing for the weird with Leper Messiah, which features a really heavy groove-driven riff that sets it apart from a lot of the faster tracks, with a lot of stops in it. Leper Messiah boasts one of the album's catchiest choruses, featuring the memorable chant, "Bow to Leper Messiah." And as far as the solo is concerned, this one is really a great sampling of Kirk's playing, where he incorporated everything. Arpeggios, lots of nice wild speed picking, a little bit of wah in there, but not so much that it overtakes the entire solo. It's compact, and it is a great sampling of Kirk's guitar work at its best. Lyrically, this song actually criticizes religious figures who deceive people and exploit faith for financial gain. Not that that's ever been done, but they talk about twisting people's beliefs to manipulate and mislead. The lyrics, "Send me money, send me green, heaven you will meet," sort of make fun of the greed and hypocrisy of televangelists and other religious figures who exploit the vulnerable. And Leper Messiah refers to a deceitful leader who falsely claims to be a savior, but in reality misguides the followers. And of course the chorus, "Bow to Leper Messiah," highlights the unquestioning obedience that such leaders demand from their followers, often unaware of the deception itself. Orion is the single instrumental on the album, highlighting Metallica's musical talent and songwriting skills. The song structure is broken down into distinct sections, each with its own unique vibe, The opening section starts with a strong driving guitar riff that really sets a powerful mood, and then it shifts into a more melodic passage featuring the lead guitar playing soaring, harmonized melodies. But the most standout part of the song, of course, is the melodic bass solo by Cliff Burton. He had such a unique bass sound on that, and considering the large scale of the bass, there was obviously a lot of grit behind those fingers to pull off those bends, and of course the harmonized bass lines together sounded really solid as well. And the album concludes with Damage Incorporated, a track that explodes with speed and aggression all throughout. The song starts out with an eerie, atmospheric intro that gradually intensifies before bursting into that furious thrash riff. The song's in the key of E minor, and it's got some of the most badass rapid fire playing on the entire record. And it's a simple song, designed to keep the energy high from start to finish. The song's verses use a fast driving beat, while the chorus features a forceful shouted refrain that's emotionally releasing and easy to remember. And Kirk Hammett's solo is a furious rapid-fire barrage of notes, adding to the song's already frenetic pace. Lyrically, Damage Inc. expresses nihilistic rage and destruction. The song titles references a made-up company that specializes in mayhem and brutality, with lyrics that praise the unrestrained force of aggression. Lines like "blood will follow blood, dying time is here" capture that brutal, unforgiving sentiment, revealing a darker aspect of humanity. And so, Master of Puppets hit the shelves on March 3rd of 1986 and immediately became a huge hit. Critics and fans both were just totally blown away, where the album ended up achieving gold right out the gate, and it would eventually sell over 6 million copies in the US, making it one of the best-selling thrash metal albums of all time. And Metallica, because of this album, stopped being a bunch of broke guys and were catapulted from underground favorites to mainstream metal stars. And the album received critical acclaim for its complex songwriting, thought-provoking lyrics, and of course the band's raw energy. It marked a major shift in the band's sound, pushing the limits of what heavy metal music was capable of. And thrash metal's rise to prominence in the metal scene was further cemented by this album's success. So on its heels, Metallica launched a huge tour, Damage Inc., to promote their album. And this tour would become a notoriously difficult time for the band, marked by extreme tragedy. The tour kicked off in the spring of '86, taking them across North America and Europe, opening most notably for acts like Ozzy Osbourne. And even though they were opening for other bands, Metallica's sets were frequently the most popular part of the shows, drawing huge crowds of dedicated fans. And they were a force to be reckoned with on stage, known for their high energy, tight playing, and captivating presence. But the band found the tour to be a pretty grueling experience, both physically and mentally. They played almost every night, often hitting the road between gigs, living a hard partying life with minimal sleep. And the band, spurred by their increasing popularity and desire to prove their worth, persevered despite the difficulties they were facing. However, a significant and unfortunate change of events would soon occur. Following their September 26th gig in Stockholm, Sweden, the band hit the road for Copenhagen, their next stop on the tour. The tour bus was a typical European coach, with cramped aisles and bunks stacked in tiers of 2 or 3 on each side. So the band members used the bunks as their private havens, seeking refuge in these small spaces after grueling shows. And each band member had a favorite bunk, and by then sleeping arrangements were pretty well settled. However, on September 26th, something unusual happened. Following the performance, the band members were pretty upbeat as they headed for the tour bus. Cliff and Kirk engaged in this lighthearted dispute over bunk assignments, and eventually it was settled with a card game. Cliff and Kirk, both dedicated card players, settled a disagreement by drawing cards from a deck. Whoever won the draw would get their pick for sleeping space for the night. Cliff Burton won the right to pick his bunk after drawing the ace of spades, the highest card in the deck. After the tour, Cliff, feeling victorious, claimed the upper bunk on the bus that Kirk had been using. And after losing the draw, Kirk accepted a different bunk as the band settled in for the night on the bus. And this bus was navigating dark and chilly roads of rural Sweden. The bus was on the E4 highway near Ljungby, Sweden on September 27th around dawn. The bus driver lost control, blaming icy roads for the treacherous conditions, and the bus ended up veering off the road, flipping onto its side. The band members were thrown from their bunks as the bus violently swerved and overturned, and Cliff was ejected through the bus window during the rollover. The bus ended up rolling on top of Cliff, pinning him underneath the wreckage. The other band members, stunned and hurt, climbed out of the wreckage, only to find Cliff pinned beneath the bus. And those moments turned out to be a whirlwind of shock, disbelief, and chaos. Overwhelmed by the situation, James Hetfield just walked in his underwear and socks, just up and down this icy road, consumed by disbelief and anger for miles, trying to make sense of what had happened, and to see if there was actually black ice, as the way the driver had claimed. Now, officially, the driver was investigated, including a toxicology test, where he was totally exonerated. The incident was deemed an accident due to poor road condition. But the band, particularly James Hetfield, doubted the driver's story and were left with lingering questions about what really happened that night. After Burton's death, Metallica had a really tough choice to make. Despite the emotional weight of losing their friend and bandmate, the group decided to press on. The decision was fueled by a mix of factors: a desire to respect Burton's legacy, and the band's growing success following Master of Puppets. Cliff Burton was always dedicated to the band's success, and the remaining members felt that it would have been his wish to continue on. Following a brief period of mourning and recovery, Metallica set out to find a new bassist, and finding a new replacement for Cliff was emotionally difficult. Both personally and musically, it was definitely a big set of shoes to fill. They would eventually settle on Jason Newsted, who previously played with Flotsam and Jetsam. Newsted, a skilled and committed bass player, struggled to win over the band and the fans, who were still grieving over Burton's passing. Nevertheless, Jason would eventually fit into this new lineup, and they would hit the road again soon after. Something really weird I just found out: the most expensive guitar on Amazon is a signature guitar, and you won't believe whose signature guitar it is. I left the link below in the description. And to my subscribers, I really want to thank you so much for all the inspiration and feedback. I truly do appreciate it. And if you haven't had a chance to subscribe to this channel, make sure you smack that subscribe button. And while you're at it, hit the like button, join the family, and I want to thank you so much for watching.